All right.
All
There's
right.
gonna be bloopers, anyways.
Yeah, you know what? There will be the outtake and some of the other stuff that we use the content for. This is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or to some, search Chad Everett Broshears. If you know, you know. Now, I'm with my buddy Ed. Ed is joining today just to kind of do a little bit of a maturity walkthrough and kind of understand a little bit more of that, and give us some feedback and insights of what he's got in his life and how this works with him. So, all right. So, Ed, you want to kind of introduce yourself there, my man?
Yes, sir. So, my name is Edward Moran, and I'm Hispanic, even though my name doesn't sound like it. I'm a personal trainer. I also do a lot of random stuff. So, let's stick with personal trainer for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ed's an entrepreneur, and he's one of the people that I consider to be a very dynamic thinker. And from our time getting to know each other, we're about, 20 years difference, right? I'm 44. How old are you?
Turning 24 in December.
Okay. So we got just I turned 45 in October. So we've got a bit of an age gap difference, but we've met each other at a marketing company where we both worked. And right away, I could tell that he was somebody that was really looking for depth of understanding and awareness in life, and really with a dynamic thinking process. We resonated very well because of it. So I decided that, with that, Ed's far more advanced in marketing. He's really is a smart guy. For being 24, he's definitely impressed me quite a bit. Not that I'm diminishing 24-year-olds, but I've got a 20 plus year gauge on life from experiences. And I say that because of that, I give more credibility for who I know you to be versus other people that turn 24 in December, right?
I appreciate that.
So it's not necessarily to fluff you up at all, right? As much as it is that just to give that acknowledgement why we're doing this conversation today, and why you're one of my guests in this process, and why I think there's value to who you are. So with that, you've gone through some stuff in life. Your origin again is, and I know we've talked about it, but to give people an idea, if it helps with kind of identifying with people, right? Where people can identify with you. You're Hispanic, specifically.
I'm from Honduras.
Honduras.
I've lived in 5 different places, 2 different countries.
Okay.
So small town, big city, town from Miami, San Pedro Sula, Villanueva, and Peña. Those are the 5 different places that I've lived at.
Okay.
Yeah, and different stages in my life. So
interesting. And being 24, you go to those different. So it's 5 different countries.
No,
Is that
no.
correct? Oh, okay.
5 different
I'm not that
places,
I'm not
like cities and towns, and
okay.
then 2 different countries.
Okay. And I'm not going to be the person that tells people where everything is on the map. That's not my area of expertise. I'm highly curious. So people are like, wow, that's dumb. It's just, hey, man, I never claimed to be smart. Now, curious is my thing, not smart. So, all right. So living in those different places, 2 different countries. So you lived in your country of origin, Honduras.
Yeah.
And then you lived in the United States. There's obviously some cultural differences and things like that.
Oh, 100%.
So,
yeah. So, like, for example, if I go to Honduras, I don't behave like a Honduran person completely. Like, I do have some like cultural and traditions and all of that. And when I come here, I'm also treated the same way. So I've always felt like I'm a foreigner everywhere I go. So for me, it's mostly about finding home. And now that I'm 23, I'm still young, but like I found home in like the things I do, pretty much. Because nowhere felt like home completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating too, because it's also like, what does it take to actually feel home? Right? What do we need in order to create that experience of home? Because you can have a house, but it's not your home. And why? Plenty of people that watch will have that feeling. Like when I bought my house here at 17, the first day, this was not my home. It was a house that I had. How long did it take me to fill in to make it feel like home? And why is that even the case? What is it that takes us to get to that point? So that's where my curiosity goes, because we say these things in a turn of phrase, right? We never felt like we felt like home, right? What does it take to get there? Curious question, right? Because it's like they'll separate relationships, they'll do all kinds of things, but they have to go someplace else. And it's not just that you have to live somewhere else. It's the home that you left. And why do we call that home? And this is a place you live. So it's a curiosity, right, that I haven't really explored before.
Okay. So for me, it's, well, mostly people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned of ways to connect with people, and it's easy for me to connect with people. And I tend to select um, just a few to actually connect, like to actually become really close. And that's how it has helped me to find home. And it's usually people that are not, they're like a mixture of everything. They don't, so for example, I have one that's the same girl, the other one's like super smart, and the other one is a construction worker. So they all have different backgrounds, and they are transparent as well. So something that helps me with finding home is just connecting with those types of people, which goes back into the what you call the community part of the maturity project. So that's one thing. But I know Tampa feels sometimes a little bit like home. Honduras still, I haven't been there in 5 years, but it's always calling me. But I don't think if when I go there, I'm gonna right now in my current stage in life, I go there and it's gonna feel like home because I don't have the same access to resources
Mm-hmm.
or like opportunities to grow as a human being because of the mindset that they have. But for me, home is more about the people and the purpose uh, during that stage of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, it seems like there's a nostalgia to it, memories that we create. Hell, actually, how we even come up with those memories and who are we at those moments. Why do we reclaim some things? Like, like when you go home, if you've had a tough day, there's something about home that kind of cradles and nests you. Like it supports you in a way that it's not the place you live. Like for me, it's really hard for me to make an apartment feel like home. I've always been that way. So I don't want to live in apartments or townhouses. They don't feel like my place. Now, and that has to do with the structure. It also has to do with my level of ownership because I own my home. So therefore, I'm going to put some pride into it and create the kind of memories that I want to have in it. So versus a place that I'm living as I transition to someplace else. So I think that also plays a role, but I think there's a lot to it. And this isn't necessarily about like home versus where you live as much as just a place of curiosity right now in the conversation, but not to get hung up on it for too long. It's a place of curiosity, really is where I'm at with it. So, um, so Ed knows a bit more about the maturity project. We've talked about it. Ed's helping me with the marketing side as well because he is better at that by far than I am. And in my opinion, he's up there with some of the better people in the industry as it is anyway. And it's not even his main occupation. He's just, something that he does and he enjoys doing. But we've talked about it, and what we can do is we'll go over each area, the 8 areas, and kind of see what your thoughts are, how it makes sense to you, and then how it's applicable where you currently are.
Okay.
Because I don't really have a scaling system at the moment where you say like 1 to 10, where would you put it, other than self-assessment versus something to actually anchor the assessment off of because it's so dynamic. So first is the physical body, right? You're a personal trainer as well. You have a great degree of respect for the physical body. And movement and exercise is contributory to physical maturity, but it's not exclusive to it, or it's not exclusive for it. So with that, being a personal trainer, we can understand that through that lens. But what is maturity in the physical body for you? What does that mean?
Maturity in the body.
I mean, obviously we have chronological age values, but talking about more of the functional side of
I think it
maturity.
might vary with age too. When it comes to the physical body, especially on the, like, let's say you get someone that's my age and someone that's your age. We're starting to explore the world.
Mhm.
We're also like, let's talk about our needs when we were young, from 18 to 22. We're trying to build relationships. So we relate a lot of that into with getting mates, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
The getting laid part of life.
Yeah, getting laid. So yeah. But for me, physical body is, I've always, ever since I was a little kid, I've connected mind, body, and spirit, especially with my Christian background. So that's something I've always had. And for me, it's a big emphasis not only on how we how we look, but how we function as human beings. That's what's important for me when it comes to the physical body. But the general population would focus on the other aspect, mostly how physically attractive, especially in this point in time.
the aesthetics of it.
The aesthetics of it.
Right. Like what the peacock value of the physical body.
Yeah.
And also for me, when you talk about a whole human being, superficial is part of that. It's like a bubble. It's like it's on the external of the bubble, and it's required in order to put something together. But you can go deeper. A lot of people get hung up on that, the physical body, for the aesthetics, and then they diminish everything else as far as like the values of that person. Like, oh, they're superficial. Why is somebody superficial?
I've had that
And
happen to me before. Yeah.
where they claim or they made the accusation of you being superficial.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
my best friend's mom. She's nice, but
Okay.
it's just a way to protect herself, especially in Honduras, because she's from the political side and she's interacted with a lot of political people. So she has created defensive mechanisms to protect herself from that. So I was wearing a tank top that day, and she was like, "Oh, he might have inferiority complex."
Inferiority. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's always trying to maximize his looks and everything. So I was like, it caught me by
Yeah.
like off guard. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah. That to me sounds like it's the psychological masturbation of self-validation. And I think that's something that's really common for people, especially when they hide behind their intelligence and they don't grant somebody else the permission to be in existence, and say, hey, you're a person, you're going through what you're going through. Perhaps you're wearing that because it's comfortable. Perhaps you're wearing that because you do want to get specific attention, but it has a deeper meaning to you than just some sort of superficial satisfaction. I love the psychological types because that's more what I've actually drawn towards anyway, because I love like communicating with that and looking at the world through that lens. But that's to me that's the defense mechanism, like you said, of her cognitive side, and she's willing to take away a potential opportunity to connect with you because she would rather be righteous by putting some sort of title like that on you. And what is that telling her about herself? Because everybody says everything. It's just whether it's being said specifically openly or if it's being talked about indirectly. So you always have the full picture if you know how to understand the full picture, because they're giving you lead-ins to everything. So her diminishing you by saying, well, it must be that he's just trying to validate himself.
Yeah, no, but that's something that a lot of people do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, her way is just. I mean, I understand because of my culture and how. I mean, we gotta protect ourselves because here in America, it's you have a lot of opportunity. You don't have to fight a lot like we have in Honduras. So she had to build those mechanisms. So I didn't take it too hard, but I was curious about it. I'm like, why are you looking at life this way?
Yeah.
And it's because of what she's been exposed to.
Absolutely. Well, that's all of us, right?
Yeah.
But so we have whatever culture we're in, and then what parameters does that give us to exist? And we have the depth of that. If you know that you need to protect yourself because you don't have the modern day comforts and conveniences like we do here in America, we've gotten soft because we've provided so much for ourselves to get to that place of luxury. But it's also softened us. So the price of the benefit, the cost of the benefit, is that we've gone through some horrific things as a country in order to be where we are now, and we're actually in the fruits of our labor, and it's softened us because so few people are willing to take on the challenges necessary to build the character that it took to get us here. But we're all living in that. What are you talking about? This is the way that everybody should have it. Everyone should feel this way. And then when we find out other people don't, it's hard for us to connect with that. And then we come from this viewpoint and belief that we know how to guide them. We know what's best for them. It's an arrogance. That's one of the reasons why Americans have that. The world stage, Americans are arrogant. It's not about what we say and how we obviously assess arrogance. It's the essence of arrogance, like this statement here about, like, even myself, I'm going to live in the society that I'm in, and then look to other societies without necessarily the depth of understanding, but I'm curious enough to learn it. So even being corrected in that is that, and it's not corrected, you've added additional information to help me understand her position, because we framed it through the political standing of her country or your country or the country of origin. And you get why she's the way that she is, because you also have more data, more information that you're responsible enough to share, and to give her the forgiveness that you get why she's there, and that you
Because
give.
she's a nice and she's kind and she's always received me with
Yeah.
like love, but
Yeah.
I'm also not I don't. When it comes to speaking or telling people stuff, I don't see why this thing would be bad, and I just say it because I've been called by her. My friend has told me that, and imprudent
Mm-hmm.
because of what I said. Because it's a long story. I'm not gonna get into it because it's a lot of personal stuff. But
Yeah.
I get why she would say that. But at least I'm being transparent about stuff, and I understand where she's coming from now. Before, like 3 years ago, I would have taken it personally. Now I'm just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's fascinating too because the subjects and the way they lead into other things is we started with a conversation about the physical body, and then there was something that came up about your physical attributes because you did a specific set of you have enough discipline that it shows your body's results because that's what most people are after in fitness is the discipline. It's what they know. Discipline is what they need to get there. Then you well, it's partial. You need discipline with information and the application that validates, but you need to understand other parameters. How long does it take with a specific stimulus, stuff like that, in order to see results? But discipline is such a key feature, a key piece. Most people will criticize the discipline because they're like, without directly understanding they're doing it. They
Especially
omit
now.
it. They show lack of interest in the discipline. They see more interest in the what have you done in the nutrition for eating. What did you do for the exercises? Not the discipline of habit necessary to make it a lifestyle or a lifestyle enough to make change. So it's fascinating that in that sense too, because people aren't taking that kind of time to understand things to that depth. So not to digress again, because this is also it got into some of the cognitive pieces of maturity, but for time's sake as well, is there anything else you want to say about that specific before we move into the next one? Because I know I've got a habit of hijacking and
No, it's
going
okay.
on.
I don't have anything else for the physical body. I might have some stuff later on, but
Yeah, and
that's
tie
all
it
I have.
in wherever. But you do a good job also when you're tying it in to reference it. So it's not just a tie in without saying that's the physical maturity. You do a pretty good job with that too, and that's I would commend you for that because it's a new education piece. It's a new thing for us as far as an awareness. So, community is another area of maturity. What is community maturity for you?
Community, that's something I'm exploring right now because of how exposed I've been to different people. So sometimes it's been really hard to connect with some people because of how disconnected I am from their life experience. So I'm not able to relate to that. So I found ways to relate to those people, and I've built artificial connections with them, not willingly, but I know that's the case because they get really invested in me, but I don't get invested in them because of the way they are. So I usually go for what I call them outliers. My friends are outliers when it comes to the way they think or act because they have no filter, and if they do, it's really small because they are who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually tend to look for community and people that don't wear that mask that often.
Mm-hmm.
They
People that
just
are more authentic
yeah,
and sincere, right?
yeah,
They
pretty
truly
much.
they're who they say they are, and that's something that we all want. Deep down, we want to know that the person that we know is truly who they tell us that they are. But yet, we seem to, as an individual, not you necessarily, but just as an individual, we seem to want to fake it till we make it, and we also want to put on the persona that's necessary for that relationship to flourish. But we want them to be authentic, which is it's fascinating to me. But most people will be like, I'm authentic until you really get into what authenticity truly is by definition and application. They're like, yeah, I'm authentic. And then you're like, okay, well, how often do you lie? Well, I don't lie. How often do you tell people, how often do you omit information? What do you mean? White lies. How often do you not tell the full story? How often do you feel fearful that if you say this, somebody's going to reject you and you decide not to say it? That gets into the integrity of authenticity or authenticity and integrity. That's where you go with it. So it's fascinating to me that commonly we want other people to be completely authentic, but at the same time, we want them to forgive us for not being it.
I mean, I think if you try to be completely authentic, you might just they're gonna they're gonna outcast you
Mm-hmm.
because some people don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
and I mean that's good because you polarize people, but it's not. It's I mean it's all also romanticized. Not everyone's going to be authentic 100% of the time.
So the community piece where we want people to be completely authentic with us, but we're reluctant to fully be authentic with other people because we try to curtail our behavior so that we're more accepted, so we don't get ostracized, meaning removed from them or removed from society, really, right? Because we're afraid of that loss of hierarchy and loss of being communal or part of the community. So one of the other things that I think is interesting is that what deception is. Because when somebody else is not fully authentic with us, because we have a default, that's where we want people to be. I want you to tell me the truth until you get to know them, and then you say, okay, based off your profile, you may not always be honest, so therefore you may not always tell me the truth. I still want you to, but you're not likely to, so I can't give you that level of trust.
Yeah.
So when we're in that place where we're like, okay, well, I want you to be fully authentic with me, but I want you to accept the fact that I'm just going to be the way that I am based on how I feel I should be. And that is I don't want to be removed. I don't want to be this, whatever. That leads into deception. And deception itself, and I don't mean deception that you yourself, you are doing it, by the way, in this scenario, you're deceiving other people because you want to fit in.
Sometimes you have to.
Well, yeah, we feel that way, right? Sometimes we have to is how we feel because we have an association with, or we have an attachment to an outcome through that group of people, or
but sometimes
what
you're not
resources
conscious
of
it.
their community.
Sometimes you are.
Well, I would say also that we have taught ourselves to be unconscious of it because as children, we seem to be very authentic. And then we start learning how to cartel our behaviors to fit in, right? So we did it. We started there. We started being very sincere and authentic, and we learned to complicate things as time goes on because of social pressures and bullying and things like that, which, by the way, I'm not an anti-bully person. I think bullying helps us associate proper placement in our hierarchy. More to talk about that, obviously, and more in depth for other conversations, unless it's called for now in this. But my point is about the deception piece and what is deception. And deception is your own expectation, because this can be a big part of it. You expect somebody to say X, Y, and Z, and then you feel you were led to believe something else. You may have filled that void. Everything that was between what they were thinking and what they said and what you think and what you believe should happen. There's a chasm between those two that you don't know, so you fill the void of what seems to be more desirable for you, or pessimistic, optimistic or pessimistic, whatever that alignment of your worldview is, then you'll fill the void with that, and it meets them wherever you think they should be. But if that person says, you know what, I'm going to go do this thing tonight, and you're like, well, you assumed they weren't going to. And then they're like, all right, well, hey, I hope you have a good night. And next thing you know, you're like, well, hey, what'd you do last night? And they're like, yeah, I went out and did this thing. And you say to yourself, what? I thought you were going to bed. That's the concept there. You feel deceived.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you that they weren't going to go out.
But
right. If I use that as an example, right?
This is someone that's close to you. Yeah.
Right. Or even if you're getting to know them and not close to you. Right. But there's some weight value to that relationship where you expect a specific behavior or something, right? You expect some sort of follow through, whatever it is. We put this expectation into it, and then we find out that that person didn't do what we believe they did, even though they never said they were going to. And then we feel deceived, but you were deceived by yourself. You weren't deceived by them. Because deception is bigger than that. What most people do is they say, I was deceived, therefore trust was broken, therefore this person is untrustworthy. And then they go around stamping people with the red T, right? What is that? The scarlet letter, right? They're giving people the T of a rejection. Don't trust that person. You might be the one that's actually untrustworthy because of where you are with assigning trust to other people. Not saying you as Ed, I mean just people in general, and especially the way we function in our society has become more and more narcissistic.
That's highly political too, and that's just the political game of life. You gotta find the people that you trust, and you can be completely authentic with them. But the general population, you have to learn how to play the game, because if you don't, you're being idealistic. And I'm idealistic, and I had to learn, because people are just gonna use stuff against you. I don't make a big deal out of it, because they've used it, but I'm like, I don't really care about it. put energy into that. But I've seen my friends being affected by me saying stuff because I tend to not have a filter,
Yeah.
and it affects them. So I have to play the game.
Right.
So, and if I also find someone that's hard to trust, I have to deceive them too. Because, for example, at a job, he said one thing, he did the other. So I had to emotionally make him do it. Like,
Right.
oh, you gotta cancel this. If you don't cancel, I'm not gonna pay for it myself. So he went ahead and canceled that person because,
Yeah.
and I know it's not ethical, but if he has unethical practices, I'm gonna use unethical practices to do the ethical stuff.
Right.
Because that's a good way to use it. So for me, authenticity is something that you use in your close, uh, like with your close friends, like really people that you know they're transparent and they're not
Yeah.
going to do any of that. But that takes time to build.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind me asking, this is being that you're in marketing and you're a marketer. Um, what would you say is Andrew Tate's brand?
Andrew Tate's brand, it's hyper masculinity. So it's just going towards fire, and removing the feminine part of it, which is water. So it's, I mean, I do appreciate that. It helps weak men become stronger,
Mhm.
but it has to get to a point in which you need to balance it out. You can't just ostracize women because maybe Andrew Tate doesn't do it, but his brand will lead people to that and just make women the enemy,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah, it very well can, right? But the reason why I ask that is that Andrew Tate also is a very specific and convicted person, right? He's very convicted to who he is, and he's not wavering. He's a very, very strong brand for who he is. And there's a lot of people that don't agree with him. But then again, there's also a lot of people that do. And the reason for that is I say he is the closest to being authentic that you can be at that level for him, because it's what he represents and he speaks into a void that motivates people. And that motivation is that we have a lot of weak men that don't want to be weak, but they had no guidance to be strong. So they don't know they're in a neutral, idle state. And when they finally find somebody like that, they have the years from 11, 12, whatever their masculinity starts to show up because of testosterone and then their own natural urges to find their place in life of being a man, from a boy to a man. But then they're shut down and they're shunned or they're reduced in their value, and then they go through their teen years feeling disenfranchised, and then they find somebody like him. Now they have from 12 to whatever age they find him, 28, 24, whatever year it is that they find this person, and then they say there's a mentor, there's somebody who could show me the thing that I've been denied given, and now I got all this energy to put into it. Then they go through the chaos phase, which is I'm reckless right now because nobody's given me this and I'm excited and I'm really convicted. I'm on a righteous path. I'm on the crusader's path.
He's a warrior. So if you talk about archetypes, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. June?
Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if we talk about his archetypes, he just like embodies the warrior archetype, which is just attack.
Right.
And as men, we're on a path to become the king, which encompasses all of them, which
Yeah.
is the magician, the warrior, and then there's the lover, and that's how you make up the king. And they might go into the shadow ones. I don't know what their names are,
Yeah.
which is just the childish version of it. So the goal is to be like, that's good to have, but you need more stuff. You need more points of view
Yeah.
because your way is not the right way. And there's no right way. And if you get to an extreme, you're gonna those type of people, in this case women or even feminine men, will become the enemy. And they're not the enemy. They just need help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating because I love it whenever people dig into psychology and then just seeing what you've already learned through that. That's great. And thank you for bringing that to the conversation today. And it's also the same. It's like for everybody watching, this is all about practicing life. You learn something and then you practice it. You learn it, you practice it. It may not be 100% accurate to how you know it to be, but this is what it's like to go through stages and growth, right? So what you're talking about is that people go into the warrior phase. Well, they're all in the pursuit of becoming the king. right? Or the queen, whatever gender preference side of that, archetypes are. But you're looking to become that level of expertise, that level of development. In Buddhism, it's becoming the Buddha, right? But you're going through all of these cycles of life in order to become the Buddha, and that's the reincarnation conversations. We don't have to get into where you take your last breath and your heart stops beating, then you reincarnate, and because your soul goes to something else. It could also be you have outgrown who you were, and you've taken your last breath of being that person, and now tomorrow you've had such an interaction, an intervention of who you are, you're now becoming the next person. You're now the phoenix has risen from the ashes into the next phase, which is, I love the analogies in mythology like the phoenix and things like that. But you may have taken your last breath being the old Ed, and then tomorrow your new breath, the new birth, is this next phase of you. So you don't have to die in the reality of death where your pulse stops and you no longer have biological functions. It could be that your mental state and your emotional state and the maturity that you were is now evolved into something separate, new, but it holds on to the remainder of the past, but it is distinctly new now because you've accepted the next step of who you are. So Carl Jung talks about it through the phases, and what he did is created categories of being able to teach through. What's the difference between the jester and the warrior? There's a line where the two of them stop. One is the jester, the other be the warrior. There's a line in that, and there's a transition point. But the thing that I've always found to be the greatest challenge when you talk about category is where does that line truly occur, and where does it occur to people that are learning? That's the beautiful thing about a holistic model is it flows in.
Yeah.
But the reality is categories help you teach it. But the reality of life is that it flows evenly. That's what the maturity project holds in its core tenet, is that I categorically broke down to areas of maturity, but they all integrate to each other and support each other, that they are actually all one thing. But it's hard to teach it that way. It's the same thing in religion. You teach the God figure, Jesus, or not Jesus, but God.
Yeah.
And then you can't teach and get people to truly grasp the concepts of God without creating categories of understanding, because he's everything. He's the Alpha and the Omega. Okay, well, what does that mean to somebody who doesn't know any of this stuff? I don't know. And if you make that God too far from who you are, you can lose the desire to worship, because that thing needs to lead you. Then we come up with like the figures of Jesus and things like that give you somebody that's a human being to associate with, and then something to strive for, which helps us create a better society together because we can join into something that has a virtuous attributes. So anyway, community has these things, and we get different teachings to help us get to these places. More modern teachings, like Carl Jung's far more modern than Christianity. So you have him and his teachings, which came with Freud prior to Jung, but they were at the same timeline. Jung was a student of Freud's, the best that I recall, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the fact. But anyway, you just have these transitions. Moshe Feldenkrais is another amazing human being that put out a lot of wonderful literature. There's just teaching to the same things. It's just how they categorize and package these things. So in the community experiences, we have authenticity, and what do we really mean by authenticity?
Everyone might have different definitions of it.
Right, but we have to figure out how to create a category to put an actual definition we can agree upon that becomes a universal. This is also part of the problem we have right now in our society, where everybody's talking about my truth, my lived experiences. Well, there's flaws in your lived experiences because of who you were when that thing happened. You're locking that in a point in time, and you're refusing to let it grow because of the arrogance and the tribalism that comes with, that was my experience, how dare you. We stop our maturity there. You could have 20 years of righteousness there and let society pass you by because you're so righteous about your indignation about what happened.
That's a dogma.
Right. And that's the problem with categories that don't have fluidity, is because they have the challenge of becoming dogmatic. So I know it's a bit of a digression from our point, but it does fit community and its maturity because it deals with people and how we interact with each other. So, and I know I don't want to cut off that part of the maturity aspect in your experience of it, but if that gives any kind of depth of value that says, you know what, this gives me different insight or expands upon insight, because you're one of those people that definitely looks for the expansion of insight. So, but for your position, back to the community parts of this, you were at authenticity and how challenging that can be to truly be authentic. So
you just gotta find your people. That's it.
Right. Which is also in marketing, you have to pick your group. And
Yeah,
then,
your tribe.
yeah, you pick your tribe, and then you can work from there and start creating rapport and awareness, like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate has done a great job at that, and he's proven it because of where he is in the world of people, his fandom, his fame, his income, and his ability to be able to navigate life under the financial freedoms that he has. So you can see that he actually has done that. His maturity and physical body is significant because the guy became a world-class kickboxer, and fighter. So he's gone through quite a few things in that business. He's obviously mastered that fairly well. Finances, he's got a very large financial opportunity. So his sexuality, he puts it out there. He tells you what it is. It's a brand part for him. Sexuality. His spirituality is his purpose. It makes it very obvious. He's out to support men becoming men. He's covered in the basis. The community is somebody he's talking to, and he's done a great job accumulating that as well.
No, I mean it's needed.
Emotionally, he's very set in the direction that he's in. He's a bit rigid, but he's got a really interesting dynamic way of looking at things from an emotional stance. But he does have his rigidity, but you need to have that. You can't have a parachute without strings. Otherwise, it's a sheet in the wind and you're falling to the earth.
Yeah, he's an extreme level of stoicism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that might lead. That's pretty good for people or men that have not developed that level of maturity in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not good for people that are already had that. They need to balance it out, in my opinion. So we need it. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that he says, but it's needed.
Yeah.
Kind of like what it's currently going on with feminism.
Mm-hmm.
We need something that is counter to that. For example, like women trying to become men. We need someone that is extremely feminine, and there's actually a movement going on. It's called "How to Become a Soft Girl," and it's popular. My girlfriend has seen it, and it's like I don't even agree with that because it's too extreme, and I'm more in the middle. I like to balance it out, but it's needed.
Yeah.
Because men are trying to become women, and women are trying to become men.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a need that we have right now.
Well, it's definitely a fast and easy way of destroying a nation. So what we have is you do have that, and I'm glad to see these movements, but that also has to do with a lot of innate values, and people continue to want to go back to it. My experience whenever I, was from my sexuality and playing around with, women that are on the left and or even feminists may say, I reject that, but in secret, they don't reject the person that I am. They don't reject the part of me that's the, you know, um, search at Everett Broshears, the if you know thing. I find that it's actually really fascinating that people that have that real strong cognitive maturity, if you will, where they've really spent a lot of time developing themselves in the tenets of feminism, and how quickly they want to abandon that when they have the opportunity to be in the presence of somebody who truly knows how to be a man, and a sophisticated or classy man especially. They have the surrendering of that ideology, and then the I want to play that role that I denied myself. And with the same type of urgency and playfulness that somebody who has been denied something for so long finally gets that opportunity to be seen and to be that person, and how they get so energized with being alive, really. It's like you give them a second to breathe life into them. So cognitive maturity is what was the next stage anyway, but I just added sexuality from my own personal experiences. But the cognitive side, we already started going into it by mentioning feminism in itself. But there's always that, right? Like cognitive maturity is what? Well, you started into it without realizing it necessarily, if that was the direction you're going in, but that's what I'm listening to. And for you, cognitive maturity would be what specifically? How would you validate that in your own life, or how
Cognitive maturity.
Yeah,
You got to
cognitive.
define cognitive.
Yeah, it's just learning the brain functions and what we can do to mature our functions as far as our thinking processes, and knowledge, memory, recall, things like that are all in the cognitive factors and maturity.
I mean, I'm still becoming more aware on that area because I've always been. It's not me like just bragging, but I've always think outside the box, and my family has always like put that down because it's not effective in our society to think that way,
Yeah.
especially in Honduras. My parents come from a really poor background, mostly my mom. So it always gets shut down, but I'll always like try to fight it.
Yeah.
So lately I've been becoming aware of how people process stuff, and not everything that's common sense to me will be common sense to them. So it's
Mm.
like me trying to like meet them in the middle because I just don't want to make them too afraid of what I know or get them confused or lose them. So I dumb it down a little when I'm,
Mhm.
especially with the marketing background and when it comes to learning, which is something I've talked to you about, is you got to simplify everything
Yeah.
because people just don't want to think. And when it comes to the cognitive side of everything and learning, is you gotta adapt to people, and
Yeah.
not everyone wants to become a critical thinker, but you have to make them have or let them have the choice of becoming that.
Yeah.
And a lot of here in the U.S. we do have that, but we've gone the opposite way in which they don't want to rethink; they just want to be motivated. And what you said, activism and all that,
Hmm.
it might not be the right one. But in Honduras, we don't have that. In Latin America, a lot of countries don't have that because they want to control the people.
Yeah.
And here, uh, the government doesn't have that much control on what we learn because we can learn from everywhere. But in Latin America, especially countries like Venezuela, all of that is control,
Mm.
and they don't let the mind expand. So I get why I get shut down a lot
Yeah.
because they don't want us to expand cognitively. So it's
That's how you control the masses, though.
oh yeah.
You know, you don't let them think, and you teach them. You reduce their ability to think and mature themselves in a dynamic way, through knowledge. So that's another. It's we've had something that was they tried to with the current administration, the Biden administration. They tried to put in what we referred to as the Ministry of Truth, which
Yeah.
is this is true. Anything else that is not true, therefore it's conspiracy or it's lies. And that's actually trying to get people to accept a thinking model that is governed by the federal government. So there's it's attempts that are being made to try to create more authoritarian to totalitarian rule, but the cognitive benefits that we have, I mean, even when you go to those other countries, you have to electively look and learn outside of that. You have to find books that could teach you that, but you also, if the government's overly controlled, you lose that ability to even find
Yeah,
those
but
books. They
it's
become illegal to have.
the good thing the country's big, so it's really hard to control how people think.
Yeah.
So it's 50 states. I don't know how many territories. So
Yeah.
people are gonna think differently because there's different cultures everywhere. In Honduras or Colombia or everything, you're gonna notice a pattern. It's like if you deviate too much, you're gonna be ostracized.
Yeah.
You're gonna become
Socially.
an outcast.
Yeah, socially separated. So with maturity there, it's like we can learn all kinds of things. The thing is like you have to understand what are your goals in life, because if you want to understand, like I'll never give advice unless I understand what people want to accomplish, because otherwise you're just giving advice from your own perspectives and it doesn't work, right? It only works for you, but it may be hypothetical because you don't have the scenario the person's asking for the direction through. So if you were in it, but you have everything about the details necessary to understand it that are not present to you when advice is being requested. So I always want to understand what your goals are before I could ever give direction. If you want to truly understand what is going to be the best information to bring in for cognitive maturity, is understand what the hell you want to accomplish with your life in the first place. Then you can say, okay, well, if that's the case, that's what I need to accomplish. These are the things that I need to learn. Then for me, I take stock of what modality is the best that I learn through, what's a secondary method that I can learn through, and what's a tertiary or third option. So from that, I'll look at what I'm currently doing. So if it's reading is one of the most effective methods,
Oh yeah.
well, then how much time am I giving myself to read? And then what am I reading otherwise? And then if it's auditory, because I'm actually a very good auditory learner, then it's a matter of what am I doing with my time that I can listen when I don't need to read something, I can do other tasks. What am I doing with that time? Am I listening to music? Am I not listening to anything at all? And then if I am listening to something, is it congruent with my goals? And then the third would be, experiential. And how often am I putting in myself into positions to be experiencing this, which is also kind of expensive to have, because how often do you get to put yourself in positions to be able to learn something new? cognitively, because it's your business is going to be things. But for me, you can expand on that one, which is how often are you willing to learn from your experiences you're currently going through and associate that with your long-term outcome versus putting that in a autopilot and then just going through your day, not thinking about every single action you've done and how these things stack up towards your ultimate outcome. So trying to take those three different methods into consideration for learning and aligning it best with your goals. That's why I'm cautious about giving advice. So when you're dealing with governments that are restrictive, they control enough that they can reduce what your curiosities even bring to the table. And then you can control the literature people have if you have that much control in your society. So we have a benefit, like a wonderful benefit here, but our ancestors and the people that built this country have spoiled us to the point we take advantage of and take for granted that
Yeah.
information is always available at our fingertips.
Yeah. You also here there's a tendency to deviate a lot from reality,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean it's good that you have that freedom, but I mean I don't think it should be limited. But you also need to bully the people that are completely wrong to get them in the right path, because also letting emotion get in the way will hinder how much you learn.
Yeah.
And also eliminating like bad emotions is not the best thing, and people are trying to do that all the time, and they're not going to learn. Like they need that in order to grow cognitively.
Yeah. You definitely need to have experiences, and we need to be able to have experiences that we authentically allow to be what they are versus, being what people tell us it should be. So emotions. And what would you say as far as emotional maturity? What would you say that is for you?
Emotional maturity is just learning how to feel every single emotion and do not react to all of them, but learn how to feel them. I don't know how to put that into words. It's just because that's something I'm also struggling with currently. So it's just learning how to feel, especially if you're too rational and you start just getting away from emotions, and there's a point in which you block them, which I started doing, and it's not good, especially when it comes to love. It's just really hard to feel it because I just want to be thinking rationally, analyzing everything, even my own emotions. So for that one, I do need a lot of growth, and I'm working on that currently, especially with my girlfriend, and we're doing long distance right now, so it does require a lot of feeling emotions. There's a lot of bad emotions. There's a lot of temptations, especially as a personal trainer.
Oh yeah.
As you know, there's a lot of temptations around, and you gotta learn how to manage that, especially with the type of agreement that you have with your current relationship. So it's and then, yeah, so it's that's something I'm working on right now. It's mostly emotions. I'm getting back into singing, writing poetry to learn how to feel again, especially after the college experience in which I just learned how to rationalize, especially also with the traumatic experience with the frat life. I had to block a lot of emotions, and now I'm letting them back in little by little, which is not to hurt myself. Uh, that's why I blocked all of that as well.
Yeah.
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 So
And emotions also, as a society, we typically shun against men learning emotional maturity. What we do is either you have to be stoic, and if you ever show emotion, you're wrong and you're bad and you're weak,
I never had
or
that
it
problem.
gets people to the idea that you really should be embracing every single emotion and attacking stoicism. Because stoicism does not mean without emotion. It means maturity and emotion
No.
to managing it so that you can try to reduce the emotional roller coaster whenever logic is demanded, and
Yeah.
that's stoicism.
Do not let yourself be controlled by your passions. That's how Marcus Aurelius puts it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of stoicism.
Yeah, same. But it's actually stoicism at its best is when you're emotionally matured, because you can deal with things where other people are losing their fucking shit, and you're just like, okay, life is chaotic as hell around you, but you're just like, I know how to navigate this. So even if you don't know it's the first time with that experience, it's the emotions that are hitting you. You're just like, yeah, I get this. I get it. And I understand why these things are triggering me, why these things are affecting me emotionally. And it's not that you don't give it the value that it is by its onslaught, but you're just stoic. It just hits you and it just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it takes something. You have to develop that. And it's not cauterized emotions. It is not cold. It just may seem that way when other people expect you to react. Like, there's somebody coming to kill us. And you're like, so?
Just chilling.
Yeah. Well, when you're like, I'm trained with my firearms. If they come through the door, that's their last step. Like that person is cool, calm, and collected versus somebody that doesn't know how they're going to survive, because they're prepared. They've developed themselves. So anyway, all right. So that's emotions, and there's a lot to that, and there's a lot we can grow from there. But I'm going to have to shorten up our video today, unfortunately, because I heard the thunder rolling in with my dogs outside. That's going to throw us off. So we'll just move through a little bit faster if that's fine with you.
Yeah.
So we have finances and financial maturity. What is that for you on that side?
Financial maturity. For me, finances are. I mean, I'm still building my relationship with money, especially with background that I have. But I've studied a lot about money and how it's related to my life. So, I mean, my goal for next year was to become a millionaire. I don't know if I'm on track still for that. But I'm learning and learning more and more. So what I'm doing is learning skills that are necessary to solve a problem, so I can make that money and just not focus on bills.
Okay.
Yeah,
So financial freedom is more of the financial maturity. And that's something that when somebody says something about finances and you say a millionaire, how many millions? Because a millionaire is more than one.
Yeah,
right?
For me, I want to be a millionaire because of what I can do with that money to help others. Because I probably just need 75,000 and that's it for my own life. But if I really want
Annually.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's also its finances is to help others.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between helping others and enabling. Because you can do a lot for other people, they'll actually resent you for what you've done for them. If you step in and take away somebody's suffering and somebody's challenges in life, there'll be a point in time. Think about the father that is the breadwinner, right? It's the cliche of it, right? Father's the breadwinner, mother's raising the kids, and there's 2.3 kids, right? Or 2.5, whatever. Or just say, fuck it, they got 3 kids. Dad goes to work, he makes a bunch of money. Mom stays home, raises the kids. The kids go to karate, soccer, whatever the hell it is they want to do, and dad's not there. Mom's relationship wanes with father, right? Because it's just she's not getting the intimacy she wants. Frustrations start to set in. The children do not have challenges to help build their character as much as somebody doesn't have the money that's available. Sorry, we can't get that PlayStation. Sorry, we can't do this thing. We can't go take the kids to do this. We're sorry, I know the other kids have it. There's character building values in that. But as soon as the father says and the mother says, you know what, I don't want our children to go through the challenges that we went through. That's also saying, I don't want my child to develop into who I am because something's wrong with who I am. And I want them to be better than me. What parent doesn't want their children to be better than them? The thing is that if you don't have them go through the challenges that you went through, you are not going to be able to navigate the challenges that they're going through as they exceed your own challenges or they become something separate from what you did. You can only use the compass that you understand life be functional by. But because the money is interjecting and taking away the financial struggle, the child no longer understands the financial responsibilities and maturity so that they understand the value of money like you do. Because you learned how to save, you learned how to plan, you know how to invest, and you're hoping to bypass all the hardship and teach just the good stuff, which is the equivalent of making sugar out of sugar cane and then consuming only sugar. Well, eventually the pancreas can't keep up and you may end up with type 2 diabetes, right? So then you get the sugar foot. Well, you don't want to create the financial sugar foot because that's where the kid doesn't know how the money works. And before you know it, you may have created a significant amount of money that's generational, but your kid teaches their kid how to fuck it all up. Because the average timeline of generational wealth is 2.5 years. I'm sorry, 2.5 generations. There's parents that knew how to make the money, give it to the kid that doesn't know how to make the money, but a direct shadow of it. And then that kid doesn't even know how to give a shadow of the parents, gives a shadow of who they are. And I don't mean the union shadow. I just mean the shadow of the light of what takes necessary to be successful. They're on the other side of it. And then they learn, I don't know what the fuck money's even about, but I do know that I can buy the car. I know I can do these things. And then they go to the casino and they gamble. They don't understand losing $500,000 in a night is a bad thing. Where, how long does it take to make $500,000? Especially early, the work and principles that are necessary. So that third generation is the one that loses all the wealth. On average, it's 2.5 generations is the average. So it's a beautiful thing to want to do for others, but it's even better whenever, like, a trust, financial trusts are a really good way, because you can set parameters to how that money is divvied out and whether or not it is divvied out or not. So that's a beautiful thing when it comes to the process of understanding how to help others with money. Give parameters they have to develop themselves or abide by in order to be financially mature. So it doesn't mean you have to go through all the maturity requirements or the hardships to become better, but you do create stipulations that still make them have to build character around money. And you can do that with a trust, because a trust has the restrictions that you set on it before the money's received. So it's fascinating. That's a great way to do it if I were to make a suggestion, so you don't enable anyone. Right. But it takes a lot of thinking to get there. Yeah. Nothing wrong with getting financially independent and then helping other people become financially independent.
For me, it's just creating a system. Yeah. But it's not, because probably have 7 more years till I have kids.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's more about creating a business in which helps people build that or create opportunity, because most people don't have that, especially where I come from. So, for example, I've been thinking about an academy, a sports academy, and just impact culture. First, start with sports, then music, then movies, all that. So we create a culture in which there's opportunity, and it's outside of becoming an engineer, a doctor. It's I'm trying to do art, okay, do music, and you're able to explore all of that. And there's you might not become rich, but at least you're doing something that you like. Mm-hmm. Or sports, and like Honduras creates a lot of awesome soccer players, but they don't develop like they should. Because we're a soccer culture. Like, I've met someone that was 12 that was playing against 18-year-olds, and he was grilling them pretty much. So giving opportunity to those types of people to grow into what they like. Now when it comes to building my financial life in the future, I'm still exploring that.
Yeah.
So I'm giving myself 7 years to build the business, build everything, and then I already have a foundation. So getting that advice, like having a trust, I didn't know about that. So that's something I need to look into.
Yeah, absolutely. Figuring out the kind of vehicle to offer that financial maturity through. Let's touch on one more, because I can hear this rolling in, and others don't necessarily hear this. But
use the bathroom.
Oh, you need to use the restroom now?
Yeah.
All right, you want to hit purpose, and then we'll finish up?
Yeah.
Like right there?
Yeah.
We'll hit purpose.
Yeah, let me just...
Oh, it's got it. All right, so purpose and maturity. So and when I say purpose, it's spirituality. And spirituality is purpose in this education. But it's purpose so sacred to you, you can call it spirituality, because that's how you hold it. What would you say is spirituality for you and maturity?
Spirituality. So I had to remove it, spirituality, for a little bit, because of my Christian background. I had to explore it. So building that relationship has been it's a challenge that I'm going through, and I'm exploring, and also finding purpose, because I'm someone that likes a lot of stuff at the same time. First, I wanted to be a soccer player. That's why you see me going this path. Singer. I'm also want to. I still am a businessman, so that's something that I'm doing, and I'm exploring. So I've always considered myself a jack of all trades, and I gotta become more specialized to find my purpose. But all of it leads back to my country and helping those people there, because you only get this experience once. Like, you're the only person that's able to see your life in first person. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, it's just like, it's the only chance I got. I was born in this country. It's super poor, people do not think the right way. They lean on religion just to get by, but they don't really explore outside of that, and it's ruining their lives. So I've always been aware of that since I was a little kid, but when I started reading when I was 17, it opened my mind up to many different aspects on how we're doing stuff without purpose, I mean, religion gives them their purpose, and whatever they do gives them their purpose, but a lot of them are leaving the country, coming to here, to the U.S. illegally because there's no opportunity there. So that's pretty much my purpose, trying to figure out a way in which they don't even have to leave.
Right.
They
Bring
can
prosperity back to the country.
Oh yeah.
Right. And prosperity is going to be in the minds of the individual, not necessarily the resources that are just specific to you can sell these vegetables or you can sell this product. It's the prosperity.
I mean, because we have all of that. We have great food. We have great health, and we get here, and our health is ruined.
Yeah. And
So
American culture, baby.
yeah.
American consumerism and commercialism right into your nutrition.
Yeah. No, we have the resources. We export our foods to the U.S. and we consume it here, but it's not the same. It's not fresh. And we have what? We have rainforests. We have amazing players. We have amazing culture. And I'm like, there is a gold mine there that like you haven't exploited yet. And if you're exploiting it, you're exploiting it the wrong way because you have all of that and you're not using it. Yeah. I'm like, dude. Like if you go to Honduras, I mean the U.S. If you go to Europe, they're exploiting all of that, and we even have more of that stuff than them. So
yeah,
that's
again, prosperity is in the mind. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And if you don't have it, if you've got if you've got more of an impoverished mind, it's hard to become prosperous. So, and that's what the maturity program is all about. And I love that that's a goal of yours because you're not trying to go there and just give out a bunch of money. You're not trying to do that. You're trying to go, you want to help affect the way that people see things. And that's a great thing. And that's a powerful place to be.
No, but I'm aware a lot of people are not going to be able to see the things that I see. So I got to find a group of people and prepare them.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to start with sports. And then you can pick and choose from that group. And you can also go to other countries and explore and meet people that want to make a change, and you give them that opportunity. So it's all about creating opportunity to people. Because my friends did not have it; they were seeking for it, and they found it one way or another. But most people don't have that, and I was fortunate enough to have that in my life because my dad was pretty much working his ass off here. My mom was working her ass off, taking care of us in Honduras, and like I had that opportunity. And most of like 60 or 70% of the population is below the poverty line, and I did not have to go through that, and I appreciate that. Like I think about it every day, and that's one of the reasons I do what I do, and that's also one of the reasons I don't have a great relationship with money, because when people seek it, I'm like, yeah, but you're only seeking opportunity for yourself. But what about the others? Because that's how I was raised.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing because now you know, and also you have a vehicle to make change. It's just now we have to refine that vehicle. Like in marketing, you have to understand what your target is and how to appeal to that target. Same thing. The maturity project is dealing with the same challenges as well because I have to be able to identify the things that are most needed for each person's life so that we can create more order and organization in somebody's life. So we're on the right path. I would love to do a second video and to be able to expand more and not have the rushed experiences. I've got to figure out exactly what I'm doing with the pups to make sure that we're good. I got an idea about what to do next, but right now with them out there and it's about to rain, I don't want to have to put them through that hardship. And I apologize to you as well as the listeners that we're not going as far as I would like to in this. Because I want to pick up on this because I want to explore that purpose drive, and then we can reverse it from that purpose drive back into the other 7 areas of maturity, because this is spirituality. And to me, I hear spirituality in your purpose because you want to help others and you really want to make a difference there. Now it's a matter of being able to really expand into that and put the details necessary to make this thing to somebody that would watch go, I want to help that guy. I get what he wants. Like that's the goal of what I'd like to accomplish with us, is to get to that point of the detail and distinctions that can really enroll people. Because who wouldn't want to see entire countries come to the point of prosperity? You
Yeah,
know?
and it doesn't have to be the American way, because
Yeah,
everyone
exactly.
has their own way. This is the capital of capitalism, I like to call it. Honduras is a whole different country, and we have a lot of natural resources too, and we can capitalize on that without ruining the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Uh, and we don't have to be as rich as the U.S. We don't have to,
Yeah.
because that's not our culture, and it will ruin the way we do things. But
Yeah.
if we adopt a little bit of the things that we have here, it will completely benefit like the way we do things.
Yeah. Agreed. So, all right. So we'll do this again. Sound good to you?
Oh yeah,
Get you back in front of the camera again?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be sober that time.
So, all right. Well, this has been the Maturity Project, and this is with my guest, Ed. Ed, outro. You want to remind everybody any place they can find you, or anything as far as like if they want to follow you, get in touch with you, or anything like that?
You can follow me on Instagram as Edward Moran Fit, EdwardMoran, like moron, but with an A, and then FIT, Edward Moran Fit. That's my Instagram, and yeah, that's all. That's all I have currently.
Okay. Yeah. Next time we'll definitely make sure we got like all like. But by the way, you can definitely reach him on Instagram. It's Edward is definitely one to find and to follow and to really understand, because the guy's up to stuff, and he truly is a good-hearted human being.
Thank you.
And I'm all about finding and helping support people like that. So, thank you for the conversation today. It's been great, and we can definitely pick more categories in a way that we can just line them up and say this is how they work or whatever, and just explore more genuine curiosity, right? This is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears, or Sir Chad Everett Broshears to some. If you know, you know, and I did give a little bit of an Easter egg in the video, if you call it that. And yeah, don't forget that the world is calling for us all, right? It really is, and we feel that calling. And it needs us, but we really need to put the effort into working on ourselves before we go and answer that call, because the path to hell is paved with plenty of good intentions. The only way to interrupt that is to change the way that we be and to work on ourselves. So, as right now, our society is making a super highway to hell. And if we don't do something, man, Calvary ain't coming, it's us. So, all right, till next time, join in. Don't forget, share the video with the people in your life you want to break the ice with. Like and comment. So like the video, help with the algorithm. Comment to tell us what you got out of this, or to appreciate the fact that Ed joined us today. And yeah, until next time, this is the Maturity Project. So let's get up to something, shall we? All right, see ya.
All right.